Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Axel and Friends podcast. We are here for episode 2, and given that we are just about to start the summer season of anime, I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to talk about thoughts on the spring anime season. And I thought that the best guest to bring on this podcast episode would be to find the one person who watches way more seasonal anime than I do, and that is SephTheSin. Seth, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me on. Hey everyone, I'm SephTheSin, the Dedicated Geek. Guy watches way too many seasonals, mainly in Monogatari and Gintama channel, but I do a lot of anime overall, so that's my plug. We get on to discussing these seasonals then.
Yeah, well, I want people to know right away. Seth, tell the people at home how many seasonal anime did you watch during the spring season?
Look, I'm not proud of the 44 seasonals I watched, but yeah, 44, which is, I don't want to work how many hours a week I spent watching that, but too many, I assure you.
Yeah, and like people have told me like, Axel, you watch too many seasonal anime, and I'm like, I do, but I don't watch as many as there are. And I am like, I'm fascinated that you were able to get to that high of a number. Like, I even think that 20 is a crazy number, and it's crazy to me compared to last year, at least, where like the level of anime wasn't as high as it was. The fact that I was able to watch 20 series in both the winter season and the spring season, I thought was crazy in and of itself. And to be fair, I probably could have gotten higher for the spring season if it wasn't for the fact that summer reality television just hit me hard, and that has been a chore to keep up with. Like, I'm watching like 12 to 15 summer reality competitions and game shows and whatnot, and that on top of anime has just been crazy. So I in all honesty, I applaud you for getting to 40 seasonal anime, and I feel like the only person that could potentially give you a run for your money in that regard would be like Anime Recon. And I know that's because he watches a lot, or at least I hear that he watches a lot. I will admit that I don't necessarily keep up with Recon's tastes ever since I listened to the Rant Cafe podcast episode where they ranked his top 20 anime, and oh man, I I wanted to judge him so hard. It was so bad. Like, would just hypothetical question, Seth? Would you put something in your top 20 anime if it was an anime from 2020 that wasn't even your favorite anime from 2020, and you didn't put said favorite anime from 2020 in your top 20? Would you do that? Because I sure as hell would not. But
I don't believe I would. It'd have to be a very strange set of circumstances for me to ever consider doing that.
yeah,
So anyone who did do that must have some strange stuff in their mind.
which apparently is the case for Recon, but I'm gonna leave it at that. But I know at least he's one of those other people that keeps up with seasonal anime, even if his tastes of seasonal anime might be a little bit out there. But I digress. That being said, we should jump into our thoughts on the spring 2020 season. And I think, at least right off the bat for me, I think I preferred the spring season over the winter season. I feel like there were more heavy hitters this time around compared to winter. But since you're the guy that watched 40, do you share that same sentiment, or do you feel the opposite?
I'd probably agree with you. I think both of them have been some of the strongest seasons I've seen in a while. I mean, I only started watching mass amounts of seasonals about a year ago, but these are two of the stronger ones I've had. But I would say spring has had the heavy hitters. Even if I feel winter had a lot more of the heavy hitting sequels, I think this season gone had a lot more good original new stuff. Whereas last season really was, winter, sorry, was the real king of sequels because there was so series in that season.
I would agree with you in that regard. There definitely were a lot of sequel seasons. We had like season 3s and even season 4s and whatnot, and it was like, yeah, we are heavy into sequels there. Whereas like definitely with the spring, you had a lot of first time adaptations, and you did have a couple sequels like here and there. Which obviously the biggest one of them being My Hero Academia with season 5, and dear God, I honestly wondered eventually how far we're gonna get with My Hero Academia and be like, My Hero Academia season 17. It's just, whoa. I don't think we're gonna get that far given the pace of it, but I do agree with you that there were by far more sequels in the winter season than there were in the spring. Not that we didn't have any in the spring, but I do agree. I think another reason why I liked the spring season, at least compared to the upcoming summer season, is that it wasn't incredibly isekai heavy either. Which I know that can be like a very big factor for like a lot of like people's opinions over any given anime season. It's just like, oh well, this season was completely dominated by isekai, and while there were once again isekai in this season, like all the isekai that I watched were actually pleasant to watch. Like, and I might be weird to say this, but like one of the particular examples of that, I really liked the Saint's power is omnipotent, like, or
don't get me started. Incredible.
I
was talking to someone who didn't like it. I was like, shut up, it's just chill, nice show to watch.
Yeah, it was just pleasant the entire way through, like, and that's such a nice feeling to have, especially with an isekai. It's just like, this is nice, I'm happy with this. Oh, there's romance. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, but Kyle's a little bitch. Like, oh my god, the one character I hate, and of course his name was Kyle. Like, whoever created the Saint's magic power is omnipotent knew what they were doing when they made the douchebag of the series named Kyle. Like, they knew what they were doing. But like, even like besides Saint magic power, like there were several other isekai that just felt nice. Like one of the ones that I was kind of like iffy going into was I've been killing slimes for 300 years and maxed out my level. But then I was just like, as soon as I started watching it, I was just like, oh my god, this is Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, but an isekai.
It is. I might go on a weird little rant about this show because I love this. It's like top 5 of this gone season. That was like the highlight of my week. Every Saturday I was just waiting like, when's Slime's episode coming out? Because it was just, there's nothing groundbreaking about the show. It's just, I found it very nice to watch, and it's just wholesome, and I love me some wholesome stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have a whole solo podcast episode about me loving wholesome things, but I think I think so many people miss that nowadays. Like, there are so many people who are like, it's, the mindset is, oh my gosh, this needs to be peak fiction or I'm not going to care about this. And it's just like, no, man, like, enjoy what you want to enjoy, and like take a second to just watch the anime that just are nice and chill and wholesome. Like, not everything has to be like going at like a 10 out of 10 at any given point in time. Like, no, you can stop and smell the roses. You can stop and appreciate the, again, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid isekai, pretty much, because I mean that's what it was. I mean, she literally had a dragon maid and then a second dragon maid and slime children and all. Like, it was so great. Like I really did love it. I will say, while I did really love watching I've Been Killing Science for 300 years, I will admit that Tuesday was actually my guilty pleasure day because it had Saint's Magic Power and it had Slime Diaries. And,
Oh,
like, just
Slime
speaking of
Diaries is just
wholesome, yeah, I, like, I, I honestly question whether or not I liked Slime Diaries more than
I
regular
had the
slime.
same thought. Honestly, I never knew I needed a full slice of life slime until the first episode of Slime Diaries because I love normal slime anyway. I do like the added drama and stuff, but it's just so wholesome.
It,
Especially all the Melim, I can't remember his name, the Demon Lord in those last few episodes,
mhm.
wholesomeness and kawaii. It's just I love Slime Diaries. It was amazing, and I almost didn't watch it because I don't like often the weird spin-off the shows. So for some stupid reason, I almost didn't watch it, and I don't know what I was thinking with that.
I know what I know what you're feeling with that, like 'cause especially with uh like outside of anime, for instance. I mean, there are so many sequels, reboots, spin-offs of certain things, and it's just like, oh my god, when will this end? Because it's not enjoyable anymore. And like, especially with like isekai based stories, there are a lot of them that do have spin-offs and whatnot. um I still really want to watch Isekai Quartet, but I'm going to admit here and now that I still have not watched either ReZero or Konosuba, so I can't.
You are killing me here.
I so it's
Ah,
I yeah, I know I need to watch them. I fully admit that, and I'm going to. It was just one of those things where like I'm one of those people that I am kind of an anti-hype person to a degree, where I don't like jumping into things because people are hyping them up as much as they are. And that was one of those things with Konosuba and ReZero. I kind of missed the initial train for them, and then everyone was just like, "Oh my god, Konosuba and ReZero," and it's just like, okay, I'll watch it
I
eventually. It's just like,
yeah, I'm the same with both. I watched ReZero just before season two came out, so way past the season one hype train, and I watched Konosuba after the movie. So I mean, both of them are in my top 10 now, and I'm looking at my Konosuba shrine right now, thinking, why has Max Blazer watched Konosuba? But yeah, they're two of my favourite seasons of all time, so you need to watch them.
yes, I completely agree. And me and I also want to like digress, or no, not digress. I want to specify here that just because I haven't watched them does not mean that I don't recognize the greatness that they have. I fully recognize that. I was the same way before I watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It was one of those things where it's just like, I haven't watched it yet, but I recognize it for the greatness that they are.
Yeah.
And then I did watch them eventually because, well, getting very off topic now, but for me, Lord of the Rings was one of those movies where like I needed to be in the right space with the right people to enjoy it, because when I wasn't in the first go around, I didn't care for it. But I completely digress. That is very off topic, but yeah. So Tuesdays though, with Saints Magic Power and Slime Diaries, that was my guilty pleasure day of the week, just because it was just so wholesome. It was great. I loved it. It was fantastic. So good. But that being said, I do recognize that Saturday was just jam
Well,
packed with.
Saturday was the second busiest for me. I think Monday had one more show for me, but Saturday was a big one.
So, to my knowledge, with Monday, the two big ones that were on my list were Odd Taxi and To Your Eternity. And the only reason why I did not finish what is completely out there so far of To Your Eternity is that it's one of the series that I watch with my girlfriend, and two, there were days where we just didn't want to be emotional, so we were just like, put Into Your Eternity on the back burner.
The show just emotionally destroys you. Like,
Oh,
if you look
absolutely.
up, last episode just killed me. It was
Oh yeah, no, I fully anticipate that. I know what I'm getting into. I'm like 8 episodes into To Your Eternity. So like compared to some of the other anime of the season where I stopped partway through for various reasons, I want to continue it. It's just that it's one of those things where it's just like, do I want to be emotional today in that way? No. No, I do not. And that's just kind of how it went.
yeah, it's definitely one of those shows. It will just I'm pretty sure I've cried at nearly every episode of that show, which I'm not happy to admit, but it's just one of those shows that does that to you.
Yes. No, I completely agree. Which, at least speaking of crying, Fruits Basket, the final, had me crying at the end of almost every episode. Usually for good reason, but like, I was getting emotional
I so
the
relate
entire
to
way
that.
through.
I didn't think the season could conclude with 13 episodes. I was like, we need a whole 24 episodes, but it blew my expectations out of the water. Like, it did everything I wanted and more for a finale of one of my favorite series of all time. I'm really surprised it's number one on Mal. Like that.
It was. It is no
really,
longer.
Well, was. But the fact I never expected it to ever get that high, but it did, and I'm happy for the Fruit Basket fans for it getting that high.
I agree. I'm glad, at least, so I believe, to my knowledge, I believe it's still at number 4. I'm pulling it up right now. I think it's still at number 4. And yep, it is. But obviously part of the reason for it was like it was at one point rated a 9.18 out of 10 on Mal, and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is rated at a 9.17. And I made a Twitter post about this too, and I was just like, it is crazy to me that people are so insecure about a rating on Mal that in the grand scheme of things does not matter. They were so upset that a shoujo series ranked higher than Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, despite getting the same treatment as Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Fruits Basket got the FMA treatment and was briefly ranked better, but people couldn't handle it. And that is absolutely crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't think that we'll ever get to a day when something will consistently stay above Brotherhood, because it's just it's the cycle now. Stuff will occasionally overtake it, but then they get knocked back down because FMA's the king, apparently.
Yeah, so if I had to guess, the only thing that would potentially be able to unseat Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood would be if Berserk ever got a better anime adaptation. And I only say that because Berserk on the manga side of things has like a 9.38%, or 9.38 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd have to probably agree there. That probably is the only thing I can think of, because a good Berserk adaptation would just be a whole nother level of just hype.
Yes.
Like, even if you look at like the top 100 on Mal, they're all stuff that I could easily see taking the number 1 spot, like in some universe. So there's definitely some real good shit in the high rankings of Mal, but Brotherhood's number 1, and that's not going to change.
Right. Which I will, on a brief tangent, I'm surprised at the sheer amount of Gintama in the top 50 of Mal.
Yes, lots of Gintama.
And I'm just like, okay, like, I get that Gintama has a following, but there's something about this. It's just like, is this real? Is this like a real amount of accounts that is actually doing this, or is this like some kind of like another one of those Mal agendas to make sure that like enough of Gintama is just in the top 50? I don't know. I'm also not going to take the time to just go through and sift through reviews to be like, I got it, this person is a burner account that just made it for Gintama.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. But
yeah, Well, as one of the few dedicated Gintama channels on the platform, there's really not many. I will say the fandom has it's a massive silent fandom. Like, there's a very large, quite majority of Gintama fans. Like, I always thought going into the series that there's a lot of the minority just really vocal about the series, but there's so many people that never talk about it that are just big fans of it. I feel because it's such a long series and there's so many parts to it. Same with like Attack on Titan. Since there's so many different parts to it, anyone that's gotten to the end usually is someone that's going to highly rank all the parts highly because they wouldn't get to the end at that point. But yeah, I'm very biased because I'm a Gintama channel, so you know.
Oh no, I completely understand, and like I
Gintama.
said, like I have nothing against Gintama. It's one of those series that I still need to get into, and like you pointed out, it's a very long series, and there are a lot of parts to it, and I would agree that for the most part, most people would like if they rank one part highly, they'll rank the rest of it highly as well. It's not like I ever heard like, "Oh man, did you hear that season 4 of Gintama sucked compared to everything else?" It's, no, you don't have that. You might have that for like parts of Attack on Titan, which is the reason why only season 3 part 2 is in like the top 10 of Mal. But Gintama has never been one of those series where like I have ever heard of like a drop in consistency for it. Like I said, it was just one of those things where it's just like, oh wow, there's a lot of Gintama in the top 50. Like a lot of Gintama. But
Though I must admit, I think the Gintama first move or second movie is in the top 100, and that is just ridiculous because it's not very good, and I don't know why people are ranking that one highly. That's the one piece of Gintama media I don't think is particularly good. But
fair enough. It might just be part of that, just the Gintama bandwagon of just saying that it's
yeah,
there. But
you got to rank them all tens because Gintama. It was like Monogatari. Awari's. I think Awari Monogatari is the biggest Monogatari part on the rankings, and it's because it's the second. It isn't the last part of the series, but it's the finale, and then there's a follow up. So I can understand why that one's the highest because all the die-hard fans have got until what is the finale, and they're obviously going to vote that as a 10 because they're seeing it's the series overall, blah blah blah. But we're getting really on a tangent here.
yeah, we are. So, and that's fine. I mean, it's a podcast. Like you can do that. Other podcasts do that all the time. It's just good dialogue, so it's fine. It is what it is. But I think that does at least help segue into discussing multi-part series, and Spring did have some very good sequels in it. One such good sequel was Megalobox 2, which was, for me, a series that I didn't realize I needed a season 2 until I watched season 2 of Megalobox, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this.
Yeah. It's the series. It's one of those series where if you told me they're making a season 2, I'm like, why? It had a great conclusion. Don't milk it. And then they bring out this emotional story about pushing past your past and new futures. And I wouldn't say the end fight, the last fight, is as good as the Yuri fight from season 1, but I still think season 2 is. I think I prefer it to season 1. It's just, yeah, as you said, it's not something that I don't think anyone wanted, but we definitely needed it.
I wouldn't necessarily say that people didn't want it. I think there were some people that maybe wanted more Megalobox content, and I did. I did want more Megalobox content. I didn't know that I wanted it in this form that it took.
Yeah.
And I will say that, like, I mean, because of Megalobox Season 2, my favorite character of the series at this point is Chief. Chief was the heart and soul of Season 2, and just made every aspect of Nomad that much better. It really was great. I loved Chief, and I'm my heart goes out to Chief, but
I so understand. I love Chief. Again, he's probably my favourite new character from this season. But I really liked oh god. Is it Mac? Mac's Mac.
It's
I
Mac.
really like Mac as well. Yeah, Mac was incredible. Especially with that final fight. Just I really like Nomad. But I'm curious, I don't know if you know, is how popular is Megalobox? Because I haven't seen anyone talk about season 2, and I thought it was fairly popular when it came out, but
So
yeah, I haven't seen anyone talk about season 2.
it's kind of funny that you mention popularity and whatnot, because yes, it's one of those series that I didn't see as many people talking about online, which kind of strange to me. I thought like more people would like it, especially since it's like a modern day Ashita no Joe. But at least in terms of the original Megalobox, it is still one of the most snubbed anime in like Crunchyroll Awards history. Because like the year that Megalobox was in the Crunchyroll Awards, I believe it was nominated for like 7 or 8 categories and did not win a single one of them.
Now, that's a crime, that is.
Yeah. No, it really, I mean, which, just like Mal, the Crunchyroll Awards are another thing that, like, in the grand scheme of things, hold no water in like
Yeah.
the actual metrics and whatnot of anime and whatnot, but it was still one of those things where it's just like you nominated Megalobox for all these series and you couldn't give it one win. You couldn't give it just one, really. I don't know. I think I can't remember if that was the year that My Hero Academia started or not, or if it was like the second season of My Hero Academia. But
I think we were on season 3 when Megalobox came out, if my memory serves.
uh,
I'm pretty.
I would
Pretty
have
sure
to
we
pull
were.
up my I would have to pull up my other computer because I had my video script for that from a long time ago. But yeah, I don't know. I think Megalobox deserves more attention and praise than it gets, since it is one of those series that like you don't hear enough people talking about it. I mean, in general, in all honesty, for this season, you had more people talking about Tokyo Revengers more than anything. That was really the one thing that was on the timeline the most from what I saw, and also people complaining about My Hero Academia, because you had people that were just like, oh man, I want My Hero Academia to get to My Villain Academia. The class 1B stuff sucks. And I'm just like, just shut up. Like,
Yeah, I was like, I knew that was going to happen as soon as we were getting into this arc. I'm like, everyone's going to moan about the arc because it's not a popular. I like the arc a lot, but yeah, everyone seems to hate this arc.
it
And we've
was,
still got a whole nother arc before we get to Villain Academy. We got the Endeavor training arc anyway, which I'm not
which,
really happy about.
right, which, and I know that the manga readers are upset about the switch, and like I get where they're coming from on that, but I'm not gonna complain about the switch if it is actually done well in the anime. Like, and I know that like there are a lot of people that are like, well, an anime adaptation needs to be a one for one for a manga adaptation. It's just like I get that, but if it can successfully do it in a way that is comparable or better in the anime by switching things up, I'm not going to be opposed to it. So I think that there still is just a lot of undue criticism for My Hero Academia for season
People
5.
love to hate it. People love to hate the show. They
Yes,
really do.
I mean, any popular shonen series is a popular punching bag for everybody. Like, we're still in that phase where like Jujutsu Kaisen is just about to be there. Like I like you can already see people starting to like hate on Jujutsu Kaisen, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But like, too many people are criticizing it, and in all honesty, the 1B fights were not bad. Like, they had some of the best animation in the series so far, and I thought that was fantastic. Like, it was very visually appealing to see these fights actually get played out. But again, you have so many people that are just like, boo, just bring out My Villain Academia, and it's just like, oh my god, just don't watch it then until it comes out. Like, seriously.
Yeah, I don't. I don't understand. They just people like to be angry and like to complain. That's what they like to do.
Yeah, just stop enjoy some wholesome stuff. Stop being so edgy, and just
Like,
please.
there's 40 plus seasonals you can watch. You don't have to watch My Hero Academia if you don't want to watch it.
Well, again, but at the same
You
time,
can just
like you have so many people that are like, "Oh, I just want to watch peak fiction. I just want to watch the stuff that everybody is watching. Like, I don't want to dig deep into like the 40 plus like anime that are out there." Like, and I think that's really unfortunate because there are so many hidden gems that you will find by actually digging deep rather than just like waiting to find out, oh hey, my favorite AniTuber or person on AniTwitter is specifically talking about this. And it's just, if there's anything I've learned, it's that there aren't enough people out there that are actually digging deep into that stuff anymore in terms of the people at the top. And that's partly due to the YouTube algorithm. Like, a lot of people are very conscious of the algorithm, so they don't want to do anything that's going to go off the beaten path. And that's unfortunate. Because, I mean, there are, like I said, hidden gems that can be found. I want to say, like, one of the weird exceptions to that rule was, like, Wonder Egg Priority from like last season. Because, like, once everybody was just like, oh my god, Wonder Egg Priority is so unique and weird, at that point, then everybody was talking about it. And that was just like, oh my god, this show is so underrepresented and amazing. And I also still need to watch the special episode that, like, aired a couple days ago.
I will warn you, you might be better off not watching it.
That's kind of what I've been hearing, but...
I will, over half of it's recap of season 1, and there's more questions than answers. I personally preferred the last episode of season 1 as a finale.
Fair enough.
Like, I don't criticize stuff often, but yeah, I if you like the season, if you like the show, I wouldn't recommend watching it. But if you're kind of impartial to it, then you might as well. But if, like, anyone, I know a lot of people have a very special connection to the show, and it speaks to them a lot. And for those people, I wouldn't recommend watching it because I feel it kind of treads over some of the emotion of it and kind of ruins it a bit. But that's just my opinion from having watched it.
Fair enough. I still plan on watching it despite, like, the high praise that I give the series. Like, just because, like, I feel like the same way with, like, The Promised Neverland. Like, just because season 2 was awful does not mean that season 1 wasn't good, because it was. It was very good, and it's just unfortunate that it panned out the way that it did. But I'm still gonna hold Wonder Egg Priority in high regards, I think, even with watching it. But we'll see what happens.
I still highly rate this series, even if I personally wasn't a big fan of this special 13 episode thing.
Well, moving away from things that were kind of iffy to speaking about things that were still better, I want to say that another one of my favorite ongoing sequels came back this season. Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun continues to be one of my favorites ongoing wholesome series, and season 2 so far has not disappointed in any way. I don't know if you watched Iruma-kun yourself. Out of the 44,
it's one of the few I didn't, because I haven't got around to season 1 yet.
Wow, I watched something yet you didn't. Oh my god. You heard it here.
300-ish animes. There's many I haven't seen.
That's fair. No, I can't say anything against that, because
I can't go on about your Konosuba and ReZero not watching.
Yeah, no, and that was what I was just about to say. It's just like there's a lot of critically acclaimed anime that I have not watched, so I cannot judge on this. But for anyone that enjoyed season 1 of Iruma, season 2 has been just as much of a blast, if not more. So I definitely recommend it. I definitely recommend watching season 1 since you haven't watched season 1 yet, just because it's another one of those feel-good series that is fantastic.
It's on my long ass list, I'll tell you that much.
Relatable. Absolutely relatable. Well, no, I shouldn't say the one other sequel on my list. I still have not finished Seven Deadly Sins, but at this point, like, I'll just wait for it to drop on Netflix. I finished the manga, so like I know how it ends, but like when I started seeing that like stuff from the previous season in terms of animation quality was sneaking back into this season, I was just like, oh my god.
In the end, it was nowhere near season 3. I don't think the show ever really got past season 1. Like, season 1 was the peak animation wise. I don't think it ever returned. I liked season 2 a lot animation wise, but 4 was alright. It wasn't to the same level. Like, if you rewatch season 3 now, the Netflix version, it is watchable. But yeah, Sins is one of my top 10 shows ever, and it's what my channel name comes from, so I'm very biased for it. But I think it adapted the manga very well. I feel what season 4, at least the structure in the manga, had some of the best panels in the manga, and with the kind of bad animation, a lot of the great scenes didn't really hold up in the anime compared to the manga, because obviously the manga usually always looks better than the anime, but the animation really hindered some of the impact of some of those scenes, at least I found.
That's fair. I mean, I will at least say, as a fellow Seven Deadly Sins fan myself, I've been very happy on a tangent note with Four Nights of the Apocalypse so far.
Great stuff.
It's been, in my opinion, a great return to form to what like the original part of Seven Deadly Sins felt like, and I've missed that. And it's been fulfilling that need for me so far. But I will eventually finish the Seven Deadly Sins anime, and it'll be convenient enough once it's on Netflix to just finish it that way rather than doing it the other way, which I have been doing the other way for Eden Zero, which has been very good as a Netflix anime. Like that has been has had a very great start. But I think people continue to downplay it just because they're like, oh, this is just the sequel or something to Fairy Tail, and Fairy Tail sucked, and which however you feel about Fairy Tail, Eden Zero is fantastic.
It sure is.
It is a great series.
I didn't think it would live up to the praise the manga readers give it, but it really has been stellar so far.
Yes, it's not doing anything like crazy. It's not doing anything that's just like, oh my god, for the animation, and stuff like that. But everything that it has done has been very good quality, so I've been very happy with it. The only Netflix anime that I have not kept up with, and it's ironic since I made a whole video about it on my channel, was Shaman King. I have not touched Shaman King's reboot yet.
I haven't seen the original, so I can't really hold it to any standard of being a reboot, but it's alright. I will admit it's one of probably my least favourites, the seasonals. It's just never really resonated with me in the way a lot of shonens have. Like, I don't mind it. It's perfectly watchable. It's never really screamed out to me. But it's a perfectly good adaptation for what I can see, at least. It's just, the show never really spoke to me. But there's still like 40 episodes of the stuff left, so it will probably grow on me.
From what I understand, it's speed running the beginning of the series.
It feels like it's very fast paced.
Yes, they're skipping through a lot of the fluff and whatnot that was part of the original and part of the original manga, just so they can get to the shaman fight. From what I understand, which it's unfortunate. I will say that like they couldn't have made it longer than the 50 episodes, but that seems to be kind of the limit more or less for these reboots, since I mean even with like Fruits Basket, like at the end that was like about 60 episodes, so and the same for Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, but it is what it is. It's just ironic that like I didn't even touch Shaman King, despite the fact that I made the whole video about Shaman King has a problem because it's in Netflix jail, and then I was just like, oh, I was the one that was wrong all along. And only the people that are 40 minutes into this podcast will ever know that. This is the only place where I'm gonna admit my wrong is right here. But oh well. Like, which I also haven't watched the Godzilla one either yet, but
Oh,
I know that one is
that's
out
amazing.
now. So I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear
I
that you
binge
like
watched
it.
that. Well, I'm one of the biggest Godzilla fans you'll ever meet, so, and I was horribly ruined by the Polygon trilogy of Godzilla films. They were atrocious, but I know a lot of Western Godzilla fans hate this anime. They think it's awful. I personally thought it was very good, but it's been very divisive so far in the community from what I've seen. But I thought it was good at least.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, my own personal metric of whether or not I like a Godzilla fan. Did you like? And again, another tangent here. Did you like Shin Godzilla?
I love Shin Godzilla, and the people that don't like it are idiots.
All right, good. All right, we're on the same page here. So I trust you completely.
Anyone that complains politics don't need to be in a Godzilla movie is an idiot, because that's one of the big complaints I see about that movie. I'm like, yeah, shut up.
Oh,
But
sorry. Go ahead.
I love my campy Godzilla. I love my Showa era. I love just giant monsters fighting. But 954 is my favorite Godzilla movie, and there's a lot of politics to that. And I feel Shin Godzilla really speaks back to that real world issues type of Godzilla movie. Yeah, I could go on for hours about Godzilla movies.
No, fair enough. My own personal opinion on it is that it shows human interaction with kaiju done right, because that's something that Hollywood doesn't really understand. Like, don't get me wrong. Yes, I love just seeing kaiju fights and whatnot and stuff like that, and we got that in Shin Godzilla. But like, at least in Hollywood, they don't understand that like we do want monster fights. You can't just keep putting in all this human drama that's just kind of like not important and that we don't care about. That is a consistent Hollywood issue, but I digress. I'm glad that we both like Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, I will say, circling back to Godzilla's singular point for a minute, I will say it probably has my favourite human cast of a Godzilla property. Like, I don't know what Godzilla's issue is with me not liking the human cast particularly, when I don't know why, because I understand people, they just want to see big monster fights, but I like the human storylines, but I never, with the exception of probably 1954 and Godzilla vs. Megalon, I don't particularly like any of the casts, but I feel Singular Point has one of my favourite casts of characters. Just because they're interesting and I don't mind seeing what they're doing, apart from all the giant monsters. Not that they're actually very big in Singular Point, they're more like... They're smaller than Showa era monsters, if you know what I mean. They're quite small.
Gotcha. Not to mention it has Discount Gintoki in it.
It does. Every time I look at him, I'm like, it's Gintoki.
It's Gintoki with glasses. It literally is. That is him.
Yeah.
I cannot be swayed differently on that. That's just how it is. Well, on another related note in terms of kaiju and whatnot, SSSS Dynazenon was the sequel to SSSS Gridman, and dear God, was this a phenomenal sequel with kaiju and kaiju fighting and whatnot. Was this on your 44 or not?
I so wanted to watch it, but I was like, I'm gonna have to go back and watch another show first, and I just never. I think in the next 10 shows I want to watch is get back and just watch the whole thing, but sadly I did not, and I really regret it now.
Gotcha. Well, I will admit it is very high on my ranking for the spring. So I'll say a little bit more on it later. I'll save it, but I will say that Dynazenon was a fantastic anime for this season.
I need to watch it.
Yes, you do. And then I guess might as well mention it here. One of the other ones that was one of my favorite anime from this season, and just an absolute surprise to how big it was for me. I loved Odd Taxi.
Oh my! Have you finished the show,
I
right?
did. I made sure to finish it
That
last night.
that finale. Oh my! I don't think I've seen such a masterful twist that just puts the whole show on its head in so long. Like, yeah, I love Odd Taxi. I obviously won't for any viewers spoil what the big reveal is because it's great. But yeah, Odd Taxi it really grew on me because I didn't like it too much at the beginning of the season, but yeah, it really grew on me by the end. It reminds me a bit of Durara in its storytelling, just very toned down and not as erratic in a way.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It's a story of interweaving parts and characters, all while focusing on our main character, who I will never get over the fact that his voice actor is the same voice actor for why am I all of a sudden blanking on his name? Oh, Tanjiro from Demon Slayer. It is the same voice
Oh
actor.
my! Oh, didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
And the only reason why I know this is because like the anime streaming sites that I follow, they always like have like one of those like happy birthday posts to like certain voice
yeah.
actors and whatnot, and they'll show pictures and whatnot for it. And I was just like, holy crap, the voice actor for our main walrus here is the same voice actor for Tanjiro from Demon Slayer and I'm blanking on his name too. Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul.
I love finding out voice actors what they play. It's like when I found out that Escanor's voice actor is the same as Gintoki's and Joseph Joestar, I was a bit freaking out because I was like, I always put these three as some of my favorite voice actors, and they're all the same person.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with you in that regard. It's well a little bit more straightforward, but like the guy that voices Overhaul, like he is a very distinctive voice, and you hear him in 15 anime a season. It seems like at this point he's just that popular. But like I love his voice, and like it's also crazy just going back in time and being like, oh, he was also the voice of this in Japan. And partly because, you know, you didn't necessarily watch those anime at the time. You watched, like, the dub because you were younger or whatnot. Like, he's the voice of Seto Kaiba from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just like, oh, wow, that's great. But
What really freaked me out this season, voice actor wise, is I was watching I Killed 300 I was killing Slime 300. Then I realised who the voice actor for that is. For another, the protagonist of
Spider
for another
Isekai.
protagonist of another isekai of the same season that aired the day before.
Yep.
And when I listened, I was like, oh my lord. Because it's the exact same voice, but the characters have such different personalities that it really threw me.
Yeah. No, I caught it
I was
immediately.
shell-shocked.
I caught it immediately. I was just like, "Oh my god, she is the main character of this anime and the main character of Spider Isekai, like dear god." Oh my god.
Yeah, that was. I always love it. It's like today I found out that my favorite show is Monogatari, and my second favorite show is Gintama, and I found out a character there's someone that voices a character in both shows using the same voice, and only today did I realize that they voice act them with the same voice, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh, so Izuko has the same voice actor as Tei, and it's the same voice, and I've never noticed. It's despite making Gintama videos and Monogatari videos like every week. Like, I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Voice actors be funny like that.
Yeah, they really are, but it is great. I will say. So was there anything in particular? Because I know I've talked about a lot of my stuff. Was there anything in particular for you that we haven't mentioned so far that was a great part of the spring season?
There is a few that you haven't touched on yet that I'm surprised. I assume you haven't seen them because I thought. Well, first off, did you watch Super Cub?
No, I did not.
You should have. It was the first episode of Super Cub. Is probably a top 10 favorite episode of anime ever for me.
Hot damn.
It's the most It's just the whole first episode. It's just a girl buying a motorbike. That's all that happens in that first episode. But it's the most melancholic, just relaxing thing you can ever watch. There's like 5 lines of dialogue in the whole episode or something. It's it's incredible. The whole show is just a girl on a motorbike going to school. That's all it is. There's no substance to the show whatsoever. But it's just the most relaxed, enjoyable thing. And it for a while it was my favorite thing of the season. It's dropped down to fifth, I think. But yeah, even just watch the first episode because it might just be me, but yeah, I adored it.
No, fair enough. I mean, it goes with the vibe that we've been having this entire podcast of like,
Yeah.
it's good to have anime that is just chill, and if that's what it is, that's great. I'll definitely give it a watch, and see how I feel about it. But yeah, no, it is great to have that every now and then, and there should be more like that.
Yeah, and it was one of the lowest ranked things of the season. And every season when I'm picking my 40 blah 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 seasonals, there's always one show I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this, and then right at the last minute I decide to watch it, and that was Super Cub. And I think the season before that it was Gate Infinity. So it's always like my favorite thing of the season is always the thing I almost don't watch.
Well, I will say the one in that kind of line of thinking that I had for this season, I started not enjoying as much toward the end, but I'll let you keep going with the stuff that you enjoyed.
I would tell you about Combatants Will Be Dispatched, but you haven't seen Konosuba, and it's by the same.
I know it's by the
and
same people. Yeah, I will at least say that like while I didn't watch Konosuba and I didn't watch Combatants Will Be Dispatched, I did watch Kemono Michi from last year, the wrestling anime. I did watch that.
That's a top 50 anime for me. I adore that show.
It's so dumb, but so great. So great.
Absolutely, yeah. Combatants, though, is I didn't know. I should have known it was written by Katsuki. Well, I knew it was written by Katsuki ages ago before it was an anime. Then I forgot that somehow. Watched the anime. Within 5 minutes, I was like, "This is a Katsuki's writing. Is this by Katsuki?" I looked it up mid episode. I was like, "Yeah, it's by Katsuki." I knew because he has a certain way of writing and comedy that was just. I immediately knew it was by him, and I do think it's his worst work out of his three. I don't think it's anywhere near Kimeno or anywhere near Konosuba, but it was still very much enjoyable to me. But I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Konosuba.
Fair enough.
Yeah, a lot of people I know didn't like it, but I was like, like what you like.
This is true. And that is perfectly okay to like what you like. Not everybody has to have the same, like, top 10 favorite things. Like, the world would be a very boring place if that was the case.
Yeah. Because it's also boring because no one this season watched Pretty Boy Detective Club.
I did.
That is a crime.
I did.
You did? Good.
I did not finish it yet, but I did watch it. And it has, in my opinion, the best opening of the season.
Oh, I've listened to Shake Shake like on loop so many times.
Same
well, it's
here.
written by Nisho Ishin, writer of Monogatari, my favorite series ever. So, and it's done by my favorite studio, Shaft. So, I love this series. I don't think it's Ishin's best work. It's probably my fourth favorite work by his, but he's my favorite author of all time. So, yeah, I loved it. It's a very unique. Have you seen Monogatari? I probably should have asked that before.
So it's on my list of things to get into, and that's just because it's another one of those series that has a lot of parts. So it's a commitment to get into. So I'm waiting to do it, but I will do it.
Well, what I was going to say was you wouldn't get it now, but like the style of Pretty Boy Detective Club is very similar to Monogatari in its animation and direction, and that's like one of my favorite parts of Monogatari is the amazing direction and the weird visuals and the weird camera angles they use. And I don't think it was as pronounced in Pretty Boy Detective Club, but I think it was still there, and you could tell if you'd seen Monogatari, this is by the same guy.
Gotcha. Fair enough. I will say, like, it was very interesting to me that, like, rather than having like legitimate transitions, it was just kind of one of those things. It's just like, here is a title card to go from scene to scene. So is that what you're kind of saying is also in Monogatari?
That was coined. It was coined in Monogatari because in Monogatari originally they ran out of animation budget and time, so they just put still frames up in between scenes because they didn't have time. But that became such a staple of the series, they continued it. And the ones in Pretty Boy Detective Club, every time it says scene transition, it's actually when there's a new chapter in the light novel, which they
Makes
also do in
sense.
Monogatari. So every scene change is also a chapter change, so that's why they have the transition there. I find that cool, at least.
Yeah, no, it's very different compared to a lot of other things. So that is
Yeah.
a unique thing for it.
And I guess I think there's one more I want to mention quickly. Which did you watch those Snow White notes? So I think it was Mashira no Oto.
I did, and that was the one that I was disappointed by.
Oh, really? I loved the first episode. I felt it fell down a bit for me, but it really picked up at the end in those last few episodes. At least I found. Also, it was weird that episode 6 got new IP. I just found that very strange because usually you don't get new IP to episode 12 or 16 in some old animes, but like it had two OPs in a 12 episode season. I just found that a bit strange.
And then went back to the
Oh,
original opening for the final episode
yeah.
of the season.
But if you don't mind me asking, what about it kind of put you off near the end?
So I I think it was just how the it just ended, and like it just made it seem like, oh well, this is the end, you're not gonna get any more, which I mean, I've had worse when that's happened. Case in point, Stars Align, uh which is a tragedy.
Yeah.
This is like, hey, we were gonna be two course, and then we were told no, so yeah, here's the worst cliffhanger in anime history. You're never gonna get more. But like, it was just one of those things where it's just like, all right, we're ending the season by the main character just falling to his knees and crying. Great. Like, I don't know. Like, you started to care about certain characters and whatnot, and like the actual music was great. And Burnout Syndrome's doing both of the openings was fantastic. I always love myself a good Burnout Syndrome's opening. But it was just, I wanted more from it and just didn't feel like I got it. And I hated the mom. Oh my god. I despise that woman so much.
I the issue I have with the mum is it's very much like a mommy from Rent a Girlfriend, where I hate her as I hate her as a person, but I love her as a character. But personally, opposite to you, I actually very much like the ending. I thought it was, I don't know, I wouldn't have liked it if Setsu just got first place, blah blah
Oh
blah.
no, I agree with
I
that.
like that he just had an absolute emotional breakdown. If we don't get season 2, I feel it would be a very bad ending. But yeah, I now that you've mentioned it, maybe the ending is bugging me now that I think about it.
Like, don't get me
But
wrong, I did not want him to win. I did not want him to win. Because it was very evident that the other guy, the adopted son, was going to be the winner, and like with his music, it also made sense. The whole judging thing made sense. In any other given competition like that, if somebody were to change styles completely in the first and second half of the song, they probably wouldn't even be given a top 3 placement in that regard. So that is very well done. It was just, again, the fact that like that is all we were left with, was him falling to the ground and crying. Nothing to follow that. That was it. There was no moral of the story, kind of like, hey, we're with you, like, hey, like, your sound is great, and like, you get to be your own person. It was just cry. Okay, the end.
Yeah, I can understand why you wouldn't like it. I don't mind the ending, but yeah, I can definitely understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's just my thought on it. I just, like, I did enjoy it, but then that ending was just wasn't there for me. Wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, I do, before we get into our top 10 stuff then, I did want to say, at least very quickly, Shadow's House was another great anime from this season.
I was saving that for my top 10 because that was my favourite seasonal.
Oh.
So that's why I mention it.
Very, very nice. I I don't have it ranked as highly, only because unfortunately the final episode has not come out yet. We still have to
It
wait for
has.
Saturday for that.
I,
Um,
Technically, it's in my rankings then, but it would. It there's no way. Even no matter what that last episode is, it's going to be number one. No matter what, I'm pretty confident.
no, that is fair enough. I still rank it very highly, because it was very good. It has been very great. The twists and turns have been fantastic. As someone that did not read the source material first, but definitely will be reading the manga afterwards. I really enjoyed the twists that were in the season, and I'm very excited to see what else happens. But it was very good. The other anime that I watched and never finished, I still need to finish the Card Fight Vanguard Overdress anime that was done by Clamp.
Yeah.
And like I've watched Vanguard before, and like some of the scenes from Overdress have been great, but like I miss actually seeing like entire fights drawn, like animated, rather than just I play a card, I play a card, I play a card. And it's just like, great, what's happening? Don't know.
Yeah, card fights are series I desperately need to get into. I've tried to start watching it many times over the years. It's just so long.
It really is, and just like any other card fight anime, it's another one of those series. At least not Overdressed so far, but at least from what I've seen. But like, it's another one of those series where it's just like, hey, let's turn a children's card game into the end of the world, repeatedly.
Yeah.
Just...
I could be wrong. Is card fight? No, wait. There's one card anime where the first season is like actual grounded. There's no like, it's just a card game and it's just normal, and then season 2 it becomes weird, end of the world. But I cannot remember what anime that is now.
I mean, there's many of them that like
There's one where it's actual strategy and they spend episodes like opening booster packs and looking for rarities. I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things about the first season of that. But I have no idea what the anime's called.
Huh.
Because it's like everyone was praising it, but they're like, it's one that's actually realistic for its first season, and they actually use strategy and stuff.
Very curious now. I
I'll
don't know offhand.
What this is now.
Yeah, fair enough. I still need to finish Vivi Fluorite. That was another one where like I've heard mixed opinions on that. Like I hear that people don't necessarily like it toward the end. But I do need to finish it. Because it was a very interesting sci-fi series.
Yeah. It's technically, it didn't resonate with me at all, really. I still really like it, but I thought it was a brilliant anime. It never emotionally struck a chord with me. But I know some people that have it in their top 10s because it was the right show for them. But I think it's a very good show, and I think it just kind of depends whether you relate to the characters, really. But it is still very worth a watch.
Right. And then the last one was I started watching The World Ends With You, and I stopped like 3 episodes in just because I wasn't really feeling it. And I played the video game before. I'm very excited for the sequel series that's coming out. But like, it also doesn't help that the whole scandal with the opening happened with I'm blanking on the band's name. But the band that did the original Beastars opening and then the first ending for Jujutsu Kaisen, because the drummer got arrested because he was apparently scamming people, and not like regular scamming, but like scamming people. Yeah. And I was just like, it was Ali. That was the name of the band.
That's the one,
But like, I was just like, oh my god. And then they changed the opening very last second, and it was just like, well, this doesn't get me hyped up for the anime, so
yeah.
Oh well. Well, that being said then.
Oh
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was World Ends With You, it was so fastly paced. I know a few people who have played the games know the source material, and they agree it's just it's like a bullet train how fast they go through stuff. And I've heard very good things about the game, but apparently, like, it's not a very good adaptation because it's fast, and that's about it. Like, that's all I've heard is just the pacing issues are horrendous.
But I mean, they were trying to cram like 3 stories into one like 12 episode season. So I mean, it's gonna be and like in the grand scheme of things, it makes sense, just because the video game itself is structured where like you're playing a game over 7 days, and you have a mission to accomplish in each of those 7 days, and some of them are shorter than others, so you can kind of fill in multiple in an episode, and it makes sense for time wise. But obviously, for those of us that played the game, you put more effort into playing out those days in the game than you were getting from the anime. So I completely understand that. But that being said, then I think we can finally get to our top 10 ranking for spring. So that being said, then I will let you, as the guest, go first on this one.
Are we doing winter plus spring or just spring, did we say?
Well, I'm gonna if you have a top 10 for spring, just spring, you can say that.
I have one. I have both.
Okay, I also have both, so we are both prepared. Yep. So I will let you go first then for your top 10 for spring by itself.
Okay. Technically, 2 of the shows in here haven't... Well, actually, 3 technically haven't finished yet, but I'm still including them because I want to. So number 10 for me would be Tokyo Avengers. It has a lot of hype behind it, and I think... I understand the hype. I don't like it as much as most people, but I still think it's really good. 9 would be Godzilla Singular Point, which I've already talked to extensively on this podcast.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
8 would be Slime Diaries, which was just... I think it holds back a bit just because it is a spin-off, and I don't like putting it ahead of some new series that I liked, but it could move up a few places if I really thought about it. 7 is Combatants Will Be Dispatched, because Akatsuki's one of my favourite authors, and I'm a Konosuba stan, so I'm going to like one of his works. 6 is Pretty Boy Detective Club, because, again, I've talked to length about it. 5 would be Super Cub, again, talk to length. 4 would be I've Been Killing Science for 300 Years and Max on My Level, as I said, very wholesome and highlight my week. 3 was To Your Eternity, emotionally destroys me every time I watch it. 2 is Fruits Basket, because, again, already talked about it, amazing. And 1 is Shadow's House, because I have a very weird fascination in fiction with the idea of living dolls. It's very weird, but no matter what show it is, if there's any inkling of that kind of concept in it, I immediately fall in love with it, which means Shadow's House, I do think it's an incredible story and it's a great mystery and I love the characters, but I have to admit I'm very biased just because I like the concept and I think it's really cool. So that was my top 10 seasonals for spring.
Very nice, very nice. We have several series that are together in the top 10, although our top 5 are very different from each other, so that was very interesting. With my list, so I tried to put in things that were ones that I completed or almost completed. So that being said, like while this final list could change because there are several series that I did not finish yet, this is at least what I had at the time of doing this podcast. So at number 10, I do have My Hero Academia, and this was more so a placement here just because I had finished what was aired for the spring season compared to other series that I hadn't yet.
Yeah.
But again, the animation and whatnot for the 1B fights was great, and I think more people need to recognize that. At number 9, I have Welcome to Demon School Irma-kun for Season 2. Season 2, like I said before, has been phenomenal so far, and I have really enjoyed how wholesome it continues to be. At number 8, I've been Killing Slimes for 300 years. I'm not going to go in length on that one. It's just another very wholesome experience, which is also the same for number 7 and number 6. At number 7 is The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent. Just loved the romance, and I wish she would have said just "I love you" in the final episode, but I didn't get it. But I'm not gonna hold it against it. It is what it is. Number 6, Slime Diary. Like I said, didn't realize I needed the wholesome spin-off of Slime until I got this, and I did. And I loved it. At number 5 is Shadow's House, and I've got it at number 5 just more so because I'm waiting for that final episode to see whether or not that tips the scale in any given way. But even then, the 4 series that I have above it were all ones that performed really well. At number 4, Nomad, Megalobox Season 2. Again, just another series where it was one where it had a sequel that I didn't realize I needed it as much as I did until I got it. And I'm going to love Chi forever as my favorite Megalobox character. At number 3, Fruits Basket, the final, a perfect end to one of the best shoujo series of all time. At number 2 is Odd Taxi, because dear God, that season was just a masterclass, and it was fantastic. Has one of the best twists in all of anime as far as I'm concerned, with its final episode, with yet another one of those just like, oh my God moments at the end of the final episode. And then at number 1 is SSSS Dynazenon. I loved this anime so much from start to finish. So good. Trigger doing what Trigger does exceptionally well, and I am so excited for when we get the 3rd part of the SSSS series sometime in the future. I'm very excited. It is so good. I cannot recommend the Gridman Dynazenon series enough. If people haven't watched it, they need to watch it. That is
I will have to watch it.
That is my take on that. And it was very close between Dynazenon and Odd Taxi for me in terms of like choosing one over the other, and I was just like, I gotta give the edge to Dynazenon just because it was so good. And I think it was episode 2 that really cemented it for me as to like why Dynazenon was the best. But yeah, that is how I feel about that. But we can move right on into the top 10 of 2021 so far, and I will let you finish on this one. So I will go first because I want to hear. I'm very curious to see what your final ranking is for the top 10 of 2021. So for number 10, I've got Skate the Infinity, and I loved my flamboyant skateboard idiots so much. I love that the main villain, the main antagonist of the series was voiced by Dio, and he was a Spanish matador, flamboyant, evil guy that literally just beat the shit out of people with a skateboard. That was freaking hilarious. Such a great series. And the opening theme song is catchy as hell. And number 9, Slime Diary. I'm not going to say anything more. Just I won't say a whole lot more for the series that I already have here, but I digress. At 8, I've got Shadow's House. So still ranking it high, even though it hasn't finished yet. At number 7, I've got Wonder Egg Priority, because Wonder Egg Priority was fantastic in the winter season. At number 6, I've got Nomad, Megalobox 2. At number 5, I've got Fruits Basket, the final. At number 4, I've got Beastars Season 2. And I'm very excited for people that have not seen Season 2 of Beastars yet, because I think it is great. It really ramps things up from Season 1. And I'm just kind of sad that it's been in Netflix jail as long as it has, but it won't be for much longer. So that's positive. At number 3, I've got Jujutsu Kaisen. I didn't think that Jujutsu Kaisen was necessarily going to get beat this year, but my top 2 beat it out, and it should be no surprise, because of what I've already said then, that number 2 for me is Odd Taxi, and number 1 is Dynazenon. Those are currently my top 2 of the year so far. It's going to be very difficult to unseat them. It's not impossible, but it will be very difficult to do that. And that is That is my top 10 anime of the year so far, and I'm very content with my current list.
I think that is a stellar list. Odd Taxi at 2, I never would have predicted that, but yeah, that's a great list. I do think mine's better, but personal bias.
No. By all means, I'm very curious to know what your top 10 are. So, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, number 10 is a show we've talked about a bit too much, which is I've Been Killing Slimes for 100 years. Already said my piece on this show. 9 is Fruits Basket. Again, we've already talked about that. 8 is Skate the Infinity. As you said, Adam, the antagonist, voiced by Takahito Kiyase, one of my favourite voice actors ever, is just... He might be like a top 20 antagonist for me in fiction. I adored Adam. The whole show was so well animated.
That was amazing.
It's just... I loved Skate.
I know.
Wait, it's incredible. Absolutely amazing. 7 is Shadow's House, which was my favourite from this season, meaning 6 things are from last season.
Wow.
But I will admit, all but one of these are technically sequels, so
that's
what
fair.
Can I say?
That is fair.
6 is That Time I Reincarnated as Slime Season 2. I liked it more than Slime Diaries. However, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe not. Either way, Season 2, I guess, technically hasn't finished. We've only had the first half of it. But that was still enough to put it on this list, because I love Slime. It's one of my favourite isekais. I don't think it's a groundbreaking show by any means, but I think it's very fun to watch. 5 is Attack on Titan Season 4. Obviously, everyone loved this. I know a lot of people didn't like it, so that's contradictory to what I just said, but I digress. I really like Season 4. It is Season 4. Yeah, it's Season 4. I'm just being an idiot. Yeah, I am anime only. I've not read what everyone says is an awful manga ending, but I really enjoyed Season 4. I thought it's very good. 4 is JJK. It's one of the most beautifully animated things I've ever seen. Probably my favourite new gen shonen. I'm currently catching up on the manga, so I cannot wait to be caught up on that. And the top 3 all happen to be sequels to shows that are in my top 10 anyway, so these were obviously going to make my top 3. So number 3 is Seven Deadly Sins Season 4, which might be quite surprising, but...
That is surprising.
My channel's named after Sins. I can't get enough of Sins. Even with the bad animation, the story and the characters easily make this a top 3 for me. I can't get over how much I like Sins. I mean, back in the day, I used to be a completely exclusive Seven Deadly Sins channel, so I love the show. Number 2 is Quintessential Quintuplets Season 2. I don't think... It's hard to say, because I know a lot of people like Quints, but I don't know anyone that likes it as much as I do, because everyone's like, why is there a harem anime in your top 10? And it's wholesome, is all I'll say. If you haven't seen Quints, it's the most wholesome harem anime you ever watch, and I love it.
Well, I would argue that My Next Life as a Villainess is a little bit more wholesome, but go on.
And number 1 is ReZero Season 2. It might be my favourite second season to an anime ever. I might have to fact check that against Konosuba Season 2, but ReZero Season 1 I liked a lot. It was a top 20 show for me, and Season 2 took it to my 6th favourite show ever, because it is just... obviously you haven't watched it, but they take all the characters from the first season and take them from like 1 to 10. Like, the amount of development they do in every episode for every character is insane, and the fact nearly every episode of Season 2 is half an hour long, as in they had no ad breaks. The director made sure that every episode was the full time slot, means that despite being only 24 episodes, it was a lot longer than like any other 24 episode
right
series. And the fact that we had to go in the second half of in Season 2 in the first half, we had to go 5 episodes about an OP because it took up too much screen time, and in the second court we had to go 7 episodes about getting the OP because again it takes up too much of the watch time. So they packed Season 2 full to the brim with stuff, and I could go on all day about how much I love ReZero.
That essentially means that they more or less, because of the time that they filled in, that's like the equivalent of giving it 8 or 9 more episodes.
Oh yeah,
just given that amount of time. which totally makes sense then why that would be a top one in that regard. And it's a top one for a lot of people, and it is something that I need to rectify. That I need to watch ReZero. I need to get into it so I can see what all the buzz is about. Even though that's not what I'm normally about. But if I'm going to give a legitimate ranking to 2021 at the end of the year, I need to watch ReZero Season 2. And I need to watch ReZero Season 1 in order to watch ReZero Season 2. So I completely get that.
Yeah, I can't recommend ReZero enough to people that haven't seen it. But I'm biased because I love it.
I to be fair, most people that watch it are biased towards it. So I mean, it's a common thing. So, but no, I think that is it shows a fantastic diversity between the two of us. To see the two different top 10 lists that we came up with, but just goes to show that there has been a lot of great anime this year, which is great to see because of what happened with 2020. Anime has rebounded this year and has been phenomenal, and there's a lot of stuff that at this point people can binge if they haven't watched it already for whatever reason. So I hope that there are people that do so moving forward. And I definitely, in the comments for this video, I do want to hear what other people enjoyed from this season, and especially if there was anything that we missed. Just watch. There's gonna be like that one person in the comments that like mentions like the 37th anime that you watched on your list, and you're like, oh my god, why didn't I cover that? And just waiting for that one person that does
Someone's
it.
gonna mention Let's Make a Mug 2, or Maiko-san, Chino Makana-san, or Full Dive, or Cestus, or Farewell My Dear Crab, or Bakuton, or
Nobody's
Osbake,
gonna
or
mention
Mars Red, or any of that
Cestus.
stuff.
No one is gonna mention Cestus. Dear God, no. The things that I've seen for Cestus are awful. They're not necessarily like X-Arm levels of awful, but they're bad. They're nobody.
I'm now a Cestus stan. I will not have anyone insulting Cestus.
Oh my god. All right.
I can't even seriously say.
Jeez. No. You feel bad. You feel bad for not being able to seriously say that. No. But that being said, I do want to thank you, Seph, for joining me for this podcast and discussing seasonal anime like this. Because again, it's very difficult to find some other people that have watched the amount of stuff that we have, and especially the amount that you have. So I appreciate your feedback and you being here. And I want to give you your moment to shine, to give yourself the plugs that you want to. So the floor is yours.
Okay, well, first off, thank you for having me on. At least I'll be able to put my habit of watching too many seasonals to use. I'm just going to plug my channel, SephTheSin. We're just made it to 1K, so we're growing now.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Took 3.5 years, but I made it.
Hey, you made it there faster than I did, because it took 6 years for me.
That must be
to be fair, it wasn't a consistent 6 years, so I mean, yeah. But yeah. I digress.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, if anyone wants to check my channel out, I mainly do Gintama and Monogatari analysis videos, but I cover other series on my channel. So if you like Seven Deadly Sins, Megalobox, Hunter x Hunter, Konosuba, ReZero, I cover all that on my channel as well. So come give it a check. I might also plug my Twitter at SephTheSin, because I give my thoughts on every show of the season, at the beginning of the season and the end of the season. So if you want to see me do about a 40 tweet thread about all the new seasonals, then you're fair game to read it. It's not very interesting. And if we're plugging, I'm going to be really naughty and plug my light novel.
That's what I was going to ask about. Yes. Plug your light novel. Plug it.
Yes, and for anyone who's very interested, I've got a new light novel coming out in the next month called People of Fate. So make sure to look out for that. I think it's going to be quite good. There we go. All my plugging over. We can get back to our host.
Is there going to be physical copies of the second light novel as well?
Yes, of course.
Excellent. I will have a second physical copy for my shelf then, because I own the first light novel by SephTheSin, and I am proud of it. I still need to read it though, and that's because I have so many things that are on the backlog.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it high on your list. I don't. Looking back, I don't know. Enough about me critiquing my own writing.
No, it's all good. But that being said, once again, I thank you for being on the podcast. For anyone that has stuck with us for this hour and 25 minutes, because it has been that long, I want to say thank you for being here. If you like the podcast and you want to see more podcasts like this in the future, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed already, which I'd be shocked if you're not subscribed already in an hour and 25 minutes into the podcast, please hit that subscribe button, because something kept your attention this long. And if you guys have any recommendations or requests for future podcast topics, future podcast guests, and whatnot, please list them down in the comments. Other than that, the links to my Twitter and Discord server are in the comment section down below. But for now, my name is Axel Ablaze, and if you haven't watched Odd Taxi yet, watch Odd Taxi. I know it looks like a furry anime, but it is so much more than that. So, bye-bye, everybody.